Science of today is the technology of tomorrow.
Good day, everyone! My name is Lady May Olmedo and I am the researcher of this phenomenological study to be discussed to you today. This research proposal will highlight the title of the study, the background of the study wherein it consists of the brief background of the study, the domains of inquiry, and the significance of the study. Next in line is the chapter 2 or the methodology where it consists of the data gathering procedure and the plan for data analysis. And now I will present to you my phenomenological research. The title of my research is The Lived Experiences of BS Ed Science Students of Capiz State University, Dumaro Campus. Going forward, let's proceed to the brief introduction or the background of this study. To strengthen the science education in the Philippines, the Science in the House of the Representatives of the Philippines in Congress enacted a law, Republic Act number 10612, wherein it is an act expanding the coverage of science and technology scholarship program and strengthening the teaching of science and mathematics in secondary schools and for other purposes. It's because science and technology are essential for national development and progress. The state shall give priority to research and development, invention, innovation, and their utilization. Priority shall also be given to science and technology education, training, and services. To support government's aim to improve science education in the Philippines, Capiz State University Dumaro Satellite College offered a general science major in Bachelor in Secondary Education course last academic year 2018-2019. Students of the program will be able to build a strong foundation on the concepts of theories of the major disciplines in biology, chemistry, earth science, astronomy, and physics, leading them to become an effective science teachers. Aside from pedagogical content, students will be also prepared to design appropriate learning plans in teaching science to secondary students in the K-12 curriculum. As one of the students of science major, I am curious about the stories of my fellow students, particularly at Capiz State University Dumaro Campus, who are also in this field. What are their life experiences in this field of science? Why did they choose this field of specialization? What are their struggles they encountered in this field? How did they cope up with the challenges in science education? What motivates them to pursue this course? These are the questions that I wish will be answered through this study. Next is the domains of inquiry. The main purpose of this qualitative phenomenological research was to explore the lived experiences of students of Bachelor of Science in Secondary Education major in General Science at Capiz State University, Dumaro Campus, Dumaro Capiz, who are enrolled in this academic year 2021-2022. Specifically, it sought to answer the research question, which is, what are the significant experiences of students taking up science as major course? Next is the significance of the study. The purpose of the study is to look into the experiences of the science major students. Thus, this study hopes to benefit the following. First is the Commission on Higher Education. So the result of this study will provide feedback on how science learners responded to the K-12 program and science education. Thus, concerns or problems of the science learners met along the way can be addressed. Next in line is the Department of Education. So they will be aware of the experiences of the future science educators and the challenges of the science education in the Philippines. Next is the Science Education Institute and the Department of Science and Technology. So these agencies can provide career opportunities to those science graduates and also a scholarship to those talented and deserving students whose families or socio-economic status do not exist to the cut-off values of certain indicators. Next is the universities and colleges. So these colleges and universities who offer BS Ed major in science will be aware of the challenges faced by the students and the factors affecting of choosing this field. Next are the teachers and professors. So these stories of science major students will be revealed through the study. Teachers and professors will be aware of the experiences of these students in their chosen field. Next are the science students. They themselves can benefit the result of this study because by this study, they will understand themselves, persevere, and persist to finish college with their chosen field of specialization. Next are the parents and guardians. So this result can benefit these people through revealing their experiences, so they will support their children in sending them to school because they knew that their children is capable of finishing their chosen field, which is the science. Next are the future researchers. So this will serve as a guide in conducting similar study. Okay. Lastly is the chapter 2 or the methodology of this phenomenological study. So this study employed the phenomenological research. A phenomenological study describes the meaning for several individuals of their lived experiences of a concept or a phenomenon. To end this, the qualitative researcher identified a phenomenon or an object of human experience. To collect the data from person who had experienced the phenomenon and develop a composite description of the essence of the experience for all of the individuals. This description consists of what they experience and how they experience it. Typically, this employed the Husserlian phenomenological method of investigation. Husserl's thought of phenomenology is that it presents a unique method for pursuing its special ends. More specifically, it develops a theory of consciousness that is intentionally. It also expresses a new theory of meaning, one intimately bound up with Husserl's doctrine of essence. Likewise, it requires the presence of a special theory of evidence, one developed in terms of self-givenness. Finally, it articulates a theory of transcendental ego emerges as the sovereign theme. Hence, in this study, I want to describe and understand the experiences of my fellow BS Ed students in the field of science. So this study is to be conducted at Capiz State University, Dumaro Campus, Dumaro Capiz, academic year 2021-2022. So the targets were the students of the Bachelor of Science on Secondary Education, major in General Science. So the informants were selected from every year level of the Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in General Science course, and 5 students were chosen. 2 respondents from the 3rd year, also 2 from the 2nd year, and 1 informant from the 1st year. So according to Salkind in 2010, in order to identify the subjects who would be included in the research study, a set of predefined characteristics known as the inclusion criteria was followed. The inclusion criteria make up the selection or eligibility criteria was used to rule in or out the target subject for the research study. So the research informants of the study are the following. First informant is the third courser. This brainy student is a 25 years old and single. According to him, science field isn't really his career of choice. But after taking up 2 courses beforehand, he decided to take up this course for the better since he is also very intelligent in science. Currently, he is a third-year student taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education major in science. The second informant is the student who shifted from course. So this jolly girl is a 21 years old and single. She is the second among the 3 siblings. According to her, science is her first choice, but she doubted her competence in this field. That's why she took up different course. But after she finished her first semester, she decided to shift in science major so she could give justice of what she really wants. She is now a third-year student taking up BS Ed major in science. The third informant is the DOST scholar. So he is 19 years old and single. His intelligence made him get a scholarship from Department of Science and Technology Agency. So science field defeated on him since he is a scholar of the said agency. Currently, he is a second-year student taking up Bachelor of Secondary Education major in General Science. My fourth informant is the Persever student mom and an entrepreneur. She is a 27-year-old single mom and the third among the 5 siblings. Currently, she manages her small business while taking care of her 2 daughters. She is a second-year BS Ed major in science student and decided to go back to school after 6 years. According to her, science field is also one of her career of choice. And the last informant is the smart lady. She is 19 years old and single. She is the 6th sibling among the 7. A freshman student taking up BS Ed major in science. She's an honor student and also have good grades in science during her high school days that pursue her to take this course. Next in line is the research sampling. The researcher of this study will utilize the purposive sampling technique. So this method will be used in drawing samples from a population in such a manner that a sample would facilitate the determination of some hypothesis concerning the population. So in this study, 5 Bachelor of Secondary Education major in General Science students of Capi State University, the Maro campus will be interviewed to get relevant data needed for this study. Next is the research instruments. Qualitative methods will be emphasized the researcher's role in active participants in the conduct of this study. So in this study, the researcher-made interview guide will be used in data collection and interpretation of data findings from the students who belongs to the BS Ed Science of Capi State University, the Maro campus. Next is the data gathering method. So the research process will be conducted for this phenomenological study will follow a uniform protocol to ensure that the outcomes of the interviews produced are consistent and accurate data in accordance to the purpose of this study. So this is the data gathering procedure. First, selection of respondents from different year level of the BS Ed major in science at Capi State University, the Maro campus, enrolled in the school year 2021-2022. Next is interview will be pre-scheduled through virtual communication to solicit the consent of the participants as well as the time of the interview. Next is the interviews will be held with the informants of Capiz State University Dumaro campus enrolled in the school year 2021-2022. Next, interview data will be transcribed within a day of the virtual interview. Next, the researcher will code the data for emergent themes. Next in line is the data analysis. So phenomenological data analysis steps are generally similar for all psychological phenomenologists who discuss the methods. Building on the data from the research questions, the researcher goes through the data such as interview transcriptions and highlights the significant statements, sentences or quotes that provide an understanding of how the participants experience the phenomenon. So, Mostakes in 1994 calls this step horizontalization. So next, does a researcher develop cluster meaning from this significant statement into themes? Next are the ethical considerations. So first is the risk and benefits of this study. So persons who are observed questions and who are involved in some other way of investigation, for example, in connection with the analysis of personal documents, will not be exposed to any disadvantages or dangers because of this research. So all risks that exceed what is normal in everyday life will be explained to the parties concerned. So the anonymity of interviewers or informants will be protected. Thus, the researcher will observe the principle of non-maleficence wherein they avoided harming the participants. Second consideration is the informed consent, wherein in this study, when the researcher take the principle of informed consent as a precondition of participation, he will make sure that the consent will be given by someone competent to do so. The person giving the consent will be adequately informed, and the consent will be given voluntarily. Next consideration is the authorization to access information. So the authorization to access private information will be included in the consent form, and any private information will be disclosed only to the researcher. Likewise, disclosures of private information that they cause damage to integrity of the informant or the family are held confidential. Next consideration is the confidentiality procedure. So the researcher encrypted the specific details, example, the names, addresses, etc., to protect identities. So I will try to guarantee the colleagues cannot identify participants from information about the study. So finally, I will store the data like recordings so that no one will be able to access this data. Next consideration is the incentives or compensation. So participation in any research study that involves humans as subjects will be strongly associated with the categorized groups that include giving incentives, the level of compensation or reward for time given to participate. And last ethical consideration is the justice. So justice means that all people should be treated equally. In analyzing and writing about the data, the researcher came certain judgments such as specific person can be allocated such as coping behaviors, while other persons are allocated other types of coping skills. And this is the end of my research proposal. Once again, I am Lady May Olmedo, the researcher of this phenomenological study.